Hello, and thank you for joining me. I'm Michael G. Hobson, and the title of this series is Hobson's Choice. According to the Oxford Dictionary, Hobson's choice is defined as a choice of taking something offered or taking nothing. I hope to offer something. I believe there are issues today that, if ignored, will severely impact mankind in the coming decades. Now, I am not affiliated with any news organization. This is strictly an effort on my behalf to offer insight on current events. It will be up to you to conclude at the end whether I have done so. Today, the G in my name stands for general. Since this is the first of a series, it is meant to provide you with a general overview of my intentions. First, being a proponent of the continuation of the human species, I believe climate change should be the most important issue of our time. But there are still so many with authority who deny all the scientists and believe environmental protections are simply regulations that hinder economic growth. Shame on you. Thinking only of yourselves and not of your children, of your grandchildren, or your descendants. Screw them, you are effectively saying to your descendants. I'm trying to make some money here. Shame on you. Your descendants will certainly be facing their own national disasters, like Hurricane Harvey, only more often. Of course, with the melting of the glaciers causing ocean levels to rise, it may not be so far into the future where miles of coastline will be water and millions will be crowded into the center of the land, watching the approaching waters like sailors on a sinking ship. Sorry, that was grim. And it may not happen. Scientists can only predict natural occurrences, like a solar eclipse, but they can't actually make them happen. Through the tragedy, the same tragedy that is claiming lives and threatening millions, Trump views the hurricane as a marketing tool, thinking he can use the coverage to announce his pardoning of Sheriff Racist Cop. Through the tragedy, however, we are witnessing people helping people. Now, I'm an optimist. Despite so much information to the contrary, I believe that the great majority of people in this world want to do the right thing. Whether they're able to, well, that's the situation. Now, these are troubling times, and it's crucial, I believe, that those whose instinct is to do the right thing need to do so. This is my contribution to the cause. Yes, these are troubling times. The Mad Hatter is in the White House, and a flock of seagulls control Congress. Now, I love Jon Stewart's description of Mitch McConnell, the turtle. He talks like he's mumbling to himself, and I still can't fathom how Paul Ryan can stand and walk without benefit of a spine. But with Hurricane Harvey hammering Texas and now Louisiana, at some point in the climate change argument it has to be stated, shouted in fact, that this is not simply the actions of nature, as much as it is a reaction to the increasing temperatures both on Earth and in the water. I appeal to the climate change deniers in power to stop looking at this issue like they would if they were looking through the peephole of a hotel room door, peering and then moving on. This issue needs your complete attention. Now, I'm not claiming that global warming created Harvey, or Sandy, or Katrina, but it is natural to assume that the waters would warm with the rise in air temperature. Global warming may not create these monsters, but it feeds them, makes them bigger, stronger. Katrina was considered a once in 500 storm. Sandy was considered a once in 500 year storm. And now Harvey is being considered a once in 500 year storm. 3 storms, each of which is considered a once-and-a-half millennium event, have occurred in the past 12 years. Something's happening here, and it needs our undivided attention. Another grievance I have is with the citizens of the United States of America. How is it possible that the Mad Hatter is still in the Oval Office? And what's worse, no matter how many times and by how many people he's told to stop talking, Trump keeps talking. Surely he's talked so much and to such an extent that enough evidence has been uncovered to get him out. The world cringes every time your president speaks. How does that feel? American citizens, how does that feel? I don't have to worry that Trump supporters are watching this video. They have a hard enough time seeing through those Trump-branded blindfolds that were given out to everyone who attended a Trump campaign rally or a Trump presidential rally. The world sees what's happening. Trump wants to be like Putin. He wants Putin's total control of the country. Russia is becoming less of a communist state and more of an authoritarian state. And that's what Trump wants. He's an authoritarian wannabe. He loves Putin because Putin's a winner. not to mention filthy rich. But Trump just can't come to grips with the fact that checks and balances are ingrained in the US government system. And for good reason, as we see. Those checks and balances don't exist in Russia. And it is those checks and balances that continue to frustrate the wannabe authoritarian. We're fortunate here in Western civilization. I mean, imagine a baby born in North Korea, groomed for a single purpose, to serve the supreme leader. We're very lucky here. The opposition to Trump is far greater in numbers than those who support him. And for Republicans to think that the perfect storm could happen twice and that they could win another election with him, well, remember in the movie, like in real life, everyone in the perfect storm died. I believe there are aspects of socialism that are not only useful to society but wise. Why wouldn't you create programs that care and protect your citizens? Is it worth the few extra bucks in your paycheck to not know if your family will be protected? It continues to amaze me how a country as large and powerful, as strong as it is knowledgeable, refuses to care for its citizens. I believe in gun control. I believe in a government-run health insurance. I mean, health insurance is not a privilege, it is a right. But the only way it can work is for everyone to contribute. And gun control, well, that's a whole other chapter. I also believe in a managed immigration policy. I believe contact football causes brain damage in its players, and I believe baseball is the greatest sport ever invented. I also believe that as a Canadian, it is incumbent on us to keep our eyes and ears open on our noisy neighbor to the south. The noise they create often causes temporary blindness in the eyes of the citizens in other countries and increased deafness in our ears. So, how to explain Trump's manner? Well, I like to describe and define him like he's like heavy metal music. Same chords being played at a high decibel. Oh, as an aside, since we're talking about Trump, like that's not the usual topic, I have a bone to pick with 52% of American white women who voted for the proven misogynist rather than for the first woman, a white woman, for president. It boggles my mind to this day. Of course, now that the anger and the confusion has lessened, and even with Trump in the White House, I still sleep well. Thankful for those checks and balances. And how are those categories defined? How does a woman get placed in the white woman category? What if a voting age woman has a black mother and a white father, or vice versa? Which line is she sent into? Is it like dual citizenship? Can she vote twice? Another thing about Trump, because there are so many things. I remember the Richard Dreyfuss character in Jaws, the oceanographer, describe a great white shark as an animal that eats, swims, and makes little sharks. And that's all it does. It's like Trump. In Trump's mind, he swims to the money, eats the money, and afterward makes little sharks. Well, I have some bad news for you, Donald. You only have one shark as an offspring, and Ivanka is more mako than great white. Your two boys, they're chum. Now, unprecedented seems to be the lead to any Trump word or Trump action, but it shouldn't be. Trump's words and actions cannot be compared to those who preceded him into that office. This isn't the same game that's being played. This isn't a Democrat versus Republican baseball game. This is golf. It's his course, and there's only one player. Of course, Trump supports white supremacy. He's the most prominent member of the club. David Duke sings his praises. I believe that segregationism is intrinsic to his character. Not only segregation by race, but segregation by gender, and mostly segregation by financial wealth. It was an instinct instilled in him by the man he both feared and admired the most, his father. And though by now he has a sense that being a segregationist is not a popular stance, especially now that he's president, like most things he says or does, just can't help himself. Thank goodness he's busy being self-destructive. Now, I understand that politics rule, at least for now, but come on, Bob Mueller. The world turns its lonely eyes to you. Sad. And I understand that congressional Republicans are going to have to shed their shiny southern boots like Shake's shedding its skin for that to happen. I believe since the election that Trump would have political cover as long as Mitch McConnell was willing to give cover. Well, that cover may be thinning as we speak. Come on, Mitch. I know you don't like to walk around with it, preferring to keep your heart on the bedside table in case you may need it at some time. But McCain showed plenty of heart with the thumbs down on killing more Americans. If there is any compassion, anything other than envy and hatred coursing through that body, let me say, for the survival of perhaps billions of people, may I say that this is the time to show it. I know it's hard. Everybody always makes fun of you. You've been the butt of jokes all your life. But now, who's laughing, right, Mitch? Look at you now. So what? If when you talk it looks like and sounds like you're mumbling to yourself, and yes, I am certain you were hurt whenever John Stewart referred to you as turtle. But you know, if you had even a little sense of humor about yourself, you might realize it's funny. So what are you going to do, Mitch? You have to know that if a political bomb explodes in the White House, there's going to be plenty of shrapnel headed your way. I am assuming you knew that was happening at the time, as far as Trump and Russia. I find it hard to believe the most powerful man in Congress wouldn't have heard such a juicy piece of information. I think Ryan knew too, but don't worry. I don't think you acted. No one would ever accuse you of being active. I laugh every time Trump complains that the Democrats are obstructionists, considering that was the position you made it your professional duty to occupy for 8 years. Nice job, by the way. You've gone from having a thoughtful, compassionate, analytical, well-spoken, well-meaning, and war leader of the government to the Tasmanian devil. Sorry, I need to stay consistent. The Mad Hatter. I remember a Republican president pressing Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev to tear down this wall. Now, the Republican president wants to build a wall. He threatens other countries for little reasons, criticizes other leaders whenever he chooses, withdraws from international agreements for selfish purposes, wants the elimination of basic health care to satisfy his political agenda, and has proposed a tax budget that may only be 1 page long, but by its efforts to cut the funding to almost every government agency in favor of giving it to the top 1%, this proposal is most assuredly 1 page too long. Now, I believe a number of the people who voted for Trump now feel regret. They had hoped his many character flaws could be accepted and forgiven if he lived up to his promises and made their lives better. But 7 months in, only the diehards who do not see that Trump's promise is not to make their lives better, but to make Trump's life better. Another movie line I want to quote comes from Sean Connery in The Hunt for Red October. When describing a fellow Russian submarine commander, Connery said, "There is no room in Tupolev's heart for anyone other than Tupolev." Changing Tupolev to Trump, and well, you see where you're going. And I have proof. Here is a picture. This is a life-size human heart, reasonably speaking. And here, this is Trump's heart. Funny thing is that he mostly uses it as storage facility for Trump memorabilia. We know this because everything he owns is stamped, including his kids. I don't understand why the investigations are taking so long. They must have tons of evidence by now. The man constantly contradicts himself. And it's on video. Fake news, I guess. In the years surrounding his Miss Universe pageant, Trump talked constantly about Russia. There is video evidence. He said that he had met and that he liked Putin. His sons, remember the chum? His sons bragged about the money that was pouring in from Russia. Imagine a Trump bragging, eh? As soon as businessman Trump became candidate Trump, he denied having any business interest in Russia and said not only had he never met Putin, but he had never talked to him either. Don't believe me, he's saying. Believe me. So who am I? Well, I am a child of fake news. I have worked inside and around the fringes of the media for many of the years. My daughter drew this. I started as a newspaper reporter in 1980. My mistake was not being able to accept the superficiality of certain aspects of journalism, feeling we were bastardizing the path set by the muckrakers who preceded me. I was young. I returned at different times in the years that followed, in different places. Now, I believe there is truth in journalism, and though it is covered under many layers of opinion, I still believe it exists. And I believe that this frightens the hell out of me. Hell hath no fury like a bully scorned. Till next time, my friends, be well.